Hi, my name is Evodio Wally, Vice President of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Contra Costa County, and I'm out here with Carlyn Obringer, who's running for City Council here in the city of Concord, and we've asked her to come out here and share her perspective on exactly what she feels this new election has in store for Concord and what she'd like to bring to the table. Carlyn, thank you for coming out.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be invited to interview today, and I look forward to our conversation.
Great. So as you all know, the City of Concord has a pretty dynamic election this year, and so we're out here trying to basically get the perspectives of the candidates so that we can bring them out here to you, our audience. And this is all brought to you by the Government Affairs Committee of the Contra Costa County Hispanic Chamber, and it's totally done on a nonpartisan basis. We're just simply trying to disseminate the thoughts of our candidates and help you understand what exactly that they bring to the City of Concord. Carlyn, can you tell us a little bit about your particular approach? Just kind of give us an idea of what you're all about, what you'd like to see, what the whole landscape is looking like this year.
Sure. So what I'd like to do is start out with a little bit of my background, if that's okay. So my husband, Justin, and I moved here to Concord almost a decade ago. And I originally discovered Concord because I play the piano and organ at Queen of All Saints Catholic Church. So that was my entree to Concord. And I discovered the more time I spent here, the more that Concord is a really culturally diverse community, one with a rich history, a true sense of place. And so when my husband and I were looking for a community where we could put down roots, we chose Concord. We made Concord our chosen hometown. And even though Concord is the biggest city in Contra Costa County, it is a big city with a small town feel. So it was easy to get involved. And so I wanted to know more about this community where we had chosen to purchase a home. So I got involved with groups like the Concord Historical Society, the Concord Ambassadors, began serving with Monument Impact and serving on that board. And so I've been there about 5 years. I serve as board chair now. Also, if there was something that needed to be done, I joined Seroptimus International of Diablo Vista, where we work to combat human trafficking and improve the lives of women and girls in our community. And I was asked to start serving on some boards. So with the Concord Chamber, the Government Affairs Committee, I've served as vice chair of that committee. And also I helped to found and annually chair Concord's Art and Wine and Beer Walk, because Concord didn't have one. And another one of my groups that I'm involved with, the American Association of University Women Concord branch, needed a fundraiser so that we could raise money for scholarships for local women and girls, educational scholarships. So if there's something happening in Concord, I'm pretty much engaged. I just got done recently chairing Concord's 4th of July parade, and the City Council has honored my desire to serve, appointing me first to the Design Review Board and then Concord's Planning Commission, which I've been there for about 4.5 years, and I currently chair that as well. So if there's something happening in Concord, like I said, I'm involved with it, and all of this civic and community involvement has provided me with a solid understanding of Concord's challenges, which we do have challenges in the areas of affordability, public safety, economic development, the redevelopment of the former Naval Weapons Station, and of course our infrastructure. But it's also provided me with insights into how we can seize the exciting opportunities before us, like the redevelopment of the former Naval Weapons Station. So I think that these are going to be very important issues for the people of Concord, and I think that at this time, whenever there is an open seat on the council, Concord is going to get a new person regardless, and I'd like to be that person who provides energy and experience to help move our city forward. So that's what I'm looking at this November and why I'm running.
Fantastic. So you clearly have a long-standing history with the City of Concord, and certainly you've been on the ground, in the trenches. So that's great to hear. So there must be some specific approach that you'd like to take with regard to impacting positive change, whether economically or socially, and we'd like to certainly understand a little bit more about that. How you plan to bring that energy and that change to Concord.
Sure. So a few things. So first of all, I'm focused on helping with the downtown, revitalizing our downtown. It's something we've been working on, but we need to continue. And whenever I say revitalizing, I think that we need to continue to encourage new developments. So right now, as a planning commissioner, I've helped to approve Renaissance Phase 2, which is the project that's at the intersection of Willow Pass Road and Galindo Street. There's Phase 1 that's there right now. There's Alpine Pastry. It's right in between there, the big hole that's surrounded by green fencing. So that project, also Concord Village, we're going to be hearing about that at our Planning Commission meeting on August 17th. And so I think it's important, again, to encourage this kind of infill development so that we can have more density downtown, which in turn can support local businesses. And also I've helped to relocate businesses to downtown Concord. In fact, 2 of them, unfortunately neither is still in business, but one was Raviolis and one was Pig and Pickle. So I serve as an ambassador. I go around town and I know pretty much all of the small business owners and restaurants. You and I are Facebook friends, so I am sure you see me promoting the different restaurants, the different, recently I discovered a wonderful Filipino market. I had dinner at a new Greek restaurant. So those kinds of things really make me even more passionate about living here in Concord. And so I think a council person should be doing what they can to support small business and encourage new development and working with existing commercial property owners. So I've sat down and convened meetings through the Concord Chamber with all of the property managers, including those involved with the Bank of America buildings, those on Willow Pass Road, talking with folks about what does the city need to do so that we can fill some of our commercial vacancies. Because one of the challenges I see is that Concord has all this commercial space, but we have a lot of families that the parents have to leave in the morning, they come back at night, and this is supposed to be the city where families come first. So we want to reduce people's commutes. We want to take the burden off of our infrastructure and create good living wage jobs here in Concord for people to commute easily and to and from. So those are some of the things that I'm committed to doing as a future council person.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And I guess with your involvement with the Monument Impact and
Yes.
the very large Hispanic constituency here within
Yes.
the county, there's probably a lot that you could do within that particular area and for that segment in particular. So that's certainly a much needed change here. So given what you'd like to see done and maybe any obstacles that you see in front of you, are there any particular approaches that you'd like to take to maybe make sure that these changes do happen? Are there any obstacles that you see that need to be moved aside?
So actually, I'm glad that you asked me that. So one of the things, and it's related to economic development, because again, from my perspective, economic development, we need to increase the pie as a city. And that's the only way that we can pay for, a police department that has the resources that our community needs to be kept safe. So, and public safety is truly the #1 issue when you ask people in Concord. So we need to make sure that our police department has resources to deal with gang issues and the homeless and petty crime. And so again, whenever I drive up and down Clayton Road, for example, or Willow Pass Road, I see all of these blighted strip malls, and these were once vibrant shopping centers. And it really concerns me because Concord is a very active community. We have a lot of people who would like to shop at these neighborhood commercial centers, but the stores are boarded up, and it attracts blight, it reduces property values, it reduces the city's sales tax revenue. So I think it's very important to look hard at what is causing some of these problems and taking a look at something like potentially a vacancy tax, because we're not in a recession anymore. So I think that excuses could be made for vacancies whenever our whole country and our county and our city were in an economic downturn. But I think it's important now to reconnect with these property owners, find out why they're not making an investment in Concord, encourage them to do so, and if they won't, put a policy into place such as a vacancy tax that would encourage some facade improvement and some occupancy. So that's one approach that I'm looking at, because again, if we could revitalize all of our blighted shopping centers, I think that would make a real difference for people's quality of life, for public safety, and just in general people's feelings about living in Concord and their neighborhood. So I think that's very important. And you also mentioned the monument community, and so I'm proud to be, like I said, part of the leadership there and helping to support the economic development programs where we're training people people to help them go from maybe coming to the country and having to start out at low paying jobs, and helping people to develop skills so that they can put food on the table for their families, move into a home, so technical skills that we're doing training, and also helping to get people around from here to there, because a lot of times it's hard for people if they don't have a quality transportation opportunity to get to work. They can't work. So one of the things I've done as a member of the Planning Commission is to serve as a liaison to Concord's Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan Committee. And so we're working to improve our bike and pedestrian infrastructure throughout the city so that folks from the monument and other parts of town don't have to rely on a car, that they can get around by bike safely. So I think that's very important. And we're also instituting a new shuttle, a free shuttle for stops within the monument community to get around, so that people can get to healthcare locations and to jobs, and to stimulate the economy there as well.
Well, thank you for sharing all that, Carlyn. So certainly, as you've shared, there are a lot of things here that we need to improve within the city of Concord, and clearly you have a perspective on how exactly that positive change can come about. So what would you say is your particular approach to impacting this change, coming from the standpoint of your experience, and what is it about your skill set or your experience that helps us as constituents here within the city of Concord understand that you would be the right person to spearhead all that?
Sure. Well, thank you for asking that. And so I already have a proven track record of helping Concord businesses and residents solve problems. And those can be small things like getting a traffic light installed at a very dangerous intersection. I have helped several neighborhoods do that. Let me give you an example of one of the businesses downtown that I've helped. So it's Grant Street Pub and Pizzeria, and it's owned by Concord residents Dave and Dee. And they went through so many challenges. And the city of Concord, I will say, is very helpful whenever folks are trying to get a business permit and go through that process. But then there comes the county. And a lot of times people don't understand that some of the challenges are really from the county and not from the city staff. And so this particular business owner was having trouble getting their environmental health permit. And so I connected them with Supervisor Mitchoff's office, and they didn't even know that she was right there, stone's throw away. So her office then helped them to get someone from environmental health to come out in a timely fashion and inspect their business to move things forward. Then they were getting ready for their grand opening. But they realized that their parking lot, at the edge of the parking lot, there was cracked brickwork, there was a cracked sidewalk, and this was all city owned. And so they didn't know what to do about it, because it kind of left folks with a bad impression if they would come to their business. So I connected them with the director of public works, and he had a crew out there the very next day making those much needed improvements. And so that assured Dave and Dee that they'd made the right choice in investing their nest egg in a business in downtown Concord. So I have those kinds of relationships where I understand how the city works. I have relationships, like I said, with all of the commercial property owners, and I really understand what the challenges are to attracting business and why we have been able to be successful in some areas. I was just sitting down with the Director of Economic Development 2 weeks ago, and it looks like Concord is starting to develop a good reputation for medical manufacturing. So we need to continue to pursue opportunities in that area. Same thing with engineering. So taking a look at the market clusters that make sense for Concord and continuing to build on those, and working again with the commercial property owners to see how the city can improve things. So for example, one of the commercial tenants, Swift Realty, they told me, it would make a lot of sense. We could help to support the downtown if you could just change the signals so that people can get into town faster in the morning, and so they can get to Todos Santos Plaza faster in the afternoon. And so I worked with Ray Kuzbari, the transportation manager, and he changed some of those things, the timing issues. So now there are thousands of people, or there will be by the middle of April 2017, who will be able to walk from the 4 buildings owned by Swift Realty and head over and patronize the Todos Santos businesses. So I think, I don't have all of the answers of how to magically create jobs, but I think it starts with a conversation. I think it starts with a relationship. I think it starts with listening and really seeing what is the low-hanging fruit that maybe is not being done for these property owners right now, and how do we fix some of these smaller things, and then work together toward, really attracting some of these living wage huge jobs that I'm talking about. So, so I already have the relationships, I already have the experience with lower level problem solving, and I understand what the issues and concerns are in the city. So I think that I'm well positioned as a future council person to work as part of the council team to move Concord forward in this direction.
Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, clearly you have a very kind of on the ground view of what's going on in Concord, and so now those that are also on the ground would be the residents of of Concord, and certainly they have a voice that should be a part of all this. So what is your take on inclusion and how the legislative process kind of helps come full circle with people that are here that have feedback and those that are in government making policies?
Well, that is a wonderful question, because I have a great deal of experience with this. As Planning Commission Chair, we come into meetings with staff reports and material that we're required to read, and there is usually a staff recommendation about a particular project, whether or not to approve something. But we are never to go into a meeting with our mind already made up. And I will tell you, it is critical for me to hear from members of the public. And my mind has been changed. Maybe I came in with a thought of, I think this is the direction I'm going to go. But let me give you a good example. There was a housing development that was being proposed at the intersection of Shalimar and Oak Grove Road. It's where there's a Lutheran church right now. And if you look at the character of the neighborhood, it's single-story homes and they're larger lots. And we had this proposal for 23 homes that were going to be multiple story. And so whenever I came into the meeting, I already had about 60 signatures from neighbors that were concerned. So I knew what the tenor of the neighborhood's thoughts were. But then they came and they spoke and they shared why they were opposed. And it wasn't that they were opposed to any development, they were just opposed to 23 homes being crammed into a space where there's no access to transit. You can't really walk. So there would be all these cars, all this traffic, and it wouldn't fit right. And so we had a long discussion as a planning commission. We listened to the input of the community, and ultimately we told the developer, we said, you know what? The neighborhood's right. 23 homes is not going to work. Maybe it works for you, penciling out financially, but this community has to live with this project forever. So we're telling you, if you want to build this project, you can only do 12 homes. Now, the developer hasn't built anything, that was their choice. And I don't think that that was the right project for that particular location. But it's critical, and I encourage people to attend meetings whenever possible, whether they're planning commission or city council, share their thoughts, share their views, because it really makes a difference to decision makers. So I think that public input is absolutely critical. And something else I would like to add is, we've got the redevelopment of the former Naval Weapons Station. And our city received an award for all of the community input, our Community Advisory Commission that helped to shape the plan for the former Naval Weapons Station. And now we're going to go back to the community, and we're forming a Community Advisory Committee to develop what's called a specific plan for phase 1, because the Naval Weapons Station is broken into 5 phases. And so basically the community plan said, these are the things that we'd like to see, but now the specific plan is going to drill down into what goes where. And again, there are going to be 11 members of the public. I think that the meetings need to be televised so people can be kept in the loop, and so that there's transparency and accountability every single step of the way. Because at the end of the day, the redevelopment of the Naval Weapons Station is going to be a $6 billion project, and we need to know where that money is going and why decisions are being made, and we need the community to be greatly involved in the decision-making process.
So these are 11 members of the public representing the whole city?
Yes, exactly.
And how do those members get selected?
So there is an application that is open right now. It is available on the city's website, and the city council will make that choice sometime this fall. So I will not be choosing those folks, but I encourage people to apply, because that's kind of the next big thing that's happening in our community, and we need people from all backgrounds, all perspectives to serve and help ensure that this specific plan is a good one for Concord.
So the vetting process will be communicated to the audience at large?
Yes, I believe that there will be interviews, just like I was interviewed for Planning Commission. I believe that the applicants will be interviewed by members of the City Council, and then there will be a public vote as to who is selected to serve.
Interesting, yeah.
So,
well, that's great to see that democratic process in effect here in Concord. I'm sure that that's going to be very well received. Carlyn, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our constituents here that are just dying to know exactly what Carlyn is all about here. So now you're going to be on the ballot here for this coming November, and as we've heard, there may be some other people that are entering the race here. So what closing comments would you like?
Sure. Well, before I close, if it's okay, I would like to share just a little more information about my vision for the redevelopment of the former Naval Weapons Station. So we've heard a lot of conversation about it being a world-class project, but I want to clarify what I think is world-class. And we've got 140 acres that's set aside for a public university. And a lot of people don't know that Contra Costa is the only county with over 1 million people that does not have a full-fledged UC or CSU. And right now, we have driverless vehicle testing happening out on the Naval Weapons Station in partnership with the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. And I think it would be really critical to use that testing as a catalyst so we can attract, working with a number of different partners, I'd like to form a blue ribbon task force to explore the idea of attracting a Cal Poly type of concept to that 140 acres. And Concord also desperately needs a library worthy of its size and stature, as well as a performing arts center and theater. And so I think we could get all of those things on that 140 acres, and that could help to create good living wage jobs at all levels, maybe even manufacturing of smart car components or autonomous vehicle components. So I really want to see world-class educational opportunities, world-class job opportunities, and also taking a look, Google, Sidewalk Labs, Alphabet, they're all talking about looking at places outside of Detroit or outside of Seattle to put in wireless infrastructure. Well, I'd like them to take a look at Concord, which is just up the 680, because we have nothing out there right now. And this is the perfect place to start from scratch so that we can really plan and build a city of the future. So that's something that I'm committed to doing. And I've already started convening conversations with key stakeholders around this. And I would love to get the input of the Hispanic Chamber going forward as well, because again, I think this is a really unique opportunity so that it's not just building and business as usual, but that this really is a world-class project that benefits Concord and greater Contra Costa County.
Yeah, interesting. So with all of this movement, the progressive movement, there surely would be some gentrification of some areas that have had a lot of citizens in those areas for quite some time. Are there any issues that you are foreseeing needing to be addressed to help keep people in their homes and sort of make the whole transition a little bit more
absolutely
smoothly?
Yes, and I want you to know, as being involved with Monument Impact, I've been well aware of this issue for over a year now, even before there was discussion about gentrification and the need for greater affordability in Concord, and this has been on my radar. And I have been looking at things, well, as a member of the Planning Commission, we approved a pilot program. And so this pilot program makes it easier for people to build detached homes of 640 square feet or fewer for the next 3 years. The cost has been reduced. So that's one way to create additional housing stock. I've also been attending all of these meetings, long meetings. Most recently, there was a 6.5-hour council meeting where we heard from both property owners and tenants. I've done a multifamily ride-along inspection to see what does it look like, how are building property owners held accountable so that they aren't able to be slumlords and charge people increased rents but aren't making improvements. So I understand that process within the city, and quite frankly, we only have one multifamily residential inspector. I think that we need two, and I think that the second one should be an individual who is bilingual. So that's something that I'm calling for. In terms of the affordability, I don't have all of the answers, but what is becoming clear to me is something does need to be done, number one. Number two, I don't think that it's right that anyone should be able to raise rent on someone for more than once a year. Also, I think if there are quality of life issues that need to be dealt with, so leaking exhaust fans, sinks that don't work, stoves and microwaves, refrigerators that are broken, I think that those things need to be fixed before someone is allowed to raise the rent. And then taking a look in partnership, talking with property owners and seeing, and looking at other cities and seeing what are the caps, what would be a realistic cap as far as a rent increase annually. And so I'm looking forward to hearing from city staff, because they are charged with going back and taking a look at all of Concord's options, from doing nothing to rent control with just cause eviction. And they're going to be returning to the council later this fall with that information. So again, I'm working on formulating my own solutions, but in the meantime, I'm really trying to learn from other communities and from staff who are charged with going out and researching the issue. Because I think it's critical that people who, it doesn't matter what level of job they perform within a community, it greatly benefits the community when someone can both live and work here. And I think that's very important. And it gets back to, you know, that cultural and socioeconomic diversity that I talked about at the very beginning that attracted me to Concord, because I think that helps to keep our community very vibrant compared to surrounding areas where it's just one type of individual who's able to live there.
Well, thank you, Carlyn.
Sure.
Those perspectives are certainly in alignment with where families comes first motto of
Absolutely.
Concord here. So
Yeah.
I'd like to thank you for coming out here and speaking to the
Thank
Hispanic
you.
Chamber on your perspective on the
Thank you.
City Council position.
Thank
very
you for
much.
your time. Thank you.